In the year 1600, Japan was about to have one of the biggest battles in its history. More than 150,000 soldiers gathered around Sekigahara, and when the fighting started, it got ugly fast. Thousands of guns were firing, arrows and spears were everywhere, and eventually the fighting turned into brutal, close-range combat. Some estimates put the number of dead at around 30,000. And the crazy part? Most of this happened in a single day. So imagine being one of the samurai standing somewhere in the middle of all that. You've got thousands of people trying to kill the guys on your side, you can barely see through the smoke, and one bad hit could pretty much end your day permanently. Yeah, good luck with that. Yet plenty of samurai somehow walked away alive. So, how did they survive battles like this? Well, the obvious place to start is armor. Samurai armor protected the parts of your body most likely to get hit while still letting you move, covering the chest, arms, thighs, lower legs, and of course, the head. But warfare changed, especially during the 1500s when guns became increasingly common, so armor changed with it. Newer designs used larger and stronger iron plates, including breastplates that offered better protection against bullets. Not exactly bulletproof in the modern sense, but definitely better than standing there in a robe. Still, armor could only do so much. The much better strategy was not getting hit in the first place. And contrary to the popular image of samurai, that didn't mean running around looking for someone to duel or charging toward the enemy just to die with honor. Turns out, staying alive was actually pretty useful. Samurai fought as part of organized armies alongside large numbers of foot soldiers called ashigaru, carrying long spears, bows and later matchlock guns. Different units had different jobs, and surviving meant staying in formation, holding the right position and following commands. A coordinated line of long spears could keep the enemy several meters away, which, when someone is actively trying to stab you, is a pretty nice distance to have. And then there were the guns. Firearms became a serious part of Japanese warfare during the 1500s, and armies adopted them pretty quickly. At Sekigahara, thousands of gunshots erupted as the battle began, and the smoke from all those matchlocks was reportedly thick enough to block out the sunlight. Now imagine trying to fight through that. You can barely see, people are shooting at you, and unfortunately you can't really outsword a bullet. So armor got stronger in key areas and tactics adapted, while coordinated groups of soldiers became even more important. And that idea of samurai always choosing death over survival? Real battlefields were much messier than that. Armies retreated, commanders changed plans, soldiers fled, and sometimes entire groups switched sides. At Sekigahara, several commanders who were supposed to fight for the Western Army either refused to join or switched sides. So much for everyone fighting to the death. Once their lines began collapsing, people started getting out of there. And if your side was falling apart and there was a way out, leaving was probably a much better option than becoming one of the thousands left on the battlefield. Of course, making it off the battlefield didn't mean you were safe. You could survive an arrow, spear, sword, or gunshot, only to have the wound become infected later. Medical treatment was limited, antibiotics didn't exist, and suddenly that hit you. Thought you survived wasn't looking so survivable anymore. Not ideal. So there really wasn't one secret that kept samurai alive. It was armor, training, formations, the soldiers around them, following commands, understanding what was happening, and sometimes knowing when it was time to get out. The sword mattered too, obviously, just probably not as much as the movies make you think. Because when more than 150,000 people showed up to fight at Sekigahara, being the best swordsman on the field didn't guarantee you anything. The samurai who survived weren't necessarily the ones who won the coolest duel. They were the ones who somehow made it home.